Hi, I'm Gina, creator and host of Feminine Roadmap Podcast, the podcast that is designed to have real talk around all things midlife and strategies to help us live a more vibrant second half. It is my deepest desire to help other people shift the conversation toward empowerment, toward vibrancy, toward excitement about what life has for us and what we can bring to the world, how we can each individually shine our light. So I invite you to grab a cup of something wonderful, to join me each week or when you can, and join me in my living room to have these conversations. And if you are enjoying this, please take the time to subscribe wherever you listen, rate my podcast, and share the episodes that help you, the episodes that encourage you. Let's build this community together. Welcome to my tribe. I'm so grateful you're here. Hello, Feminine Roadmappers. Welcome back to Feminine Roadmap Podcast, the podcast that helps you navigate the challenges and changes of midlife and to create a vibrant second half. Today, we're going to be talking about doodling. Now, my guest is striving to invite people to step into the experience of who they are and how they choose to live their lives by connecting to their inner sanctuary with the healing power of doodling. And so my guest today is Carol Edmonston. She is the original doodle lady, a proud recovering perfectionist, and the author of The Healing Power of Doodling. Carol, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Well, I'm delighted for the invitation to be with you and your listeners.
Well, as I told you before we hit record, art is like the love of my life. So I said, doodling, ooh, let's have a talk about how that can really be a tool, because art is therapy. Art can be therapy, all forms of it. And I would love to know what led you to this specific mission and message. What was it that led you to really talk about and share and write a book about doodling?
Well, for one thing, I have been an ardent student of meditation for 25 years. So I've always been interested in wanting to just discover, all that there is that you can't see, feel, touch, or experience on that level. What actually ended up taking me on the journey of discovering doodling was the diagnosis of breast cancer way back in 1995, which actually was repeated again in 1997. So it started one day when I was just nervously sitting in a doctor's office waiting for test results. And, when you're just sitting there and a doctor's running late, you're picking up magazines and thumbing through them from back to front in a matter of seconds. You have no idea what you're reading or looking at, but you're just trying to find something to occupy your mind and slow down that racing heartbeat and the worry. So all of a sudden I decided, this is crazy. If they took my vital signs in this moment, I would be off the chart. So I got up off my chair and I walked over to the receptionist and I just asked her for a pen and paper. And I came back to my seat, sat down, and just started aimlessly doodling, just little scribbles on a piece of paper. They didn't make sense at all. It wasn't a tree. It wasn't a house. It wasn't anything I could imagine. But with these little scribbles, I just started filling them in and letting my mind just not worry about what was going on the paper. But what I realized after a little bit of time is that the more I got lost in this aimless little process of doodling, the more calm I was beginning to feel. And I wasn't sitting there worried about, oh no, what is the doctor going to say to me? So when I finally got and saw the doctor, I was feeling pretty calm until I heard him utter the words breast cancer. And then all of a sudden, I was off in that worry zone thinking, oh my God, does this mean I'm going to die? My son's going to lose his mother, my husband, a wife, etc. But I left the office, a little bit rattled, to say the least. But as I was driving home, I kept thinking to myself, I need to figure out some kind of strategy. I mean, I need to figure out how I'm going to journey through this adventure in my life. So later that night, I was just sitting down doing a little more scribbling. Then all of a sudden it dawned on me, you know what? This seemed to have been helpful while I was waiting. So bright and early the next morning, I jumped out of bed, got dressed, and went down to the local art supply store, and I bought myself a doodle book, just a plain art book, spiral bound. Made sure I had it spiral bound because I am left-handed and you don't want to get that ink all over your hand. And I deemed it my doodle book. And I decided that no matter where I had to go, especially if I was going to have to wait, whether a doctor's office, even the car wash, or even waiting to pick up kids after school, I had something to occupy my mind so I wouldn't start getting frazzled. But this became my constant companion. And that's how it really started for me.
That's a powerful story because it was in the moment a coping mechanism, right? It was a way of trying to get a handle on things.
I really didn't understand what the process was going on. All I knew is that somehow, and I did give myself a little bit of a guideline because I grew up as a paint by the number artist. You couldn't make a mistake, but somehow I was led to just sit there and let the pen wander on the piece of paper and come up with some abstract. You really would look at it and want to just throw it right into the trash can. So the one guideline was to just begin and end the outline at the same point without lifting the pen off the paper, and do it in a matter of seconds, maybe just the time it takes to breathe in and breathe out. And if the two lines don't come together perfectly, don't worry about it. So after I had my little initial outline, my little squiggle, then I could go back and fill it in with whatever I wanted. Stars, dots, stripes. I could use color if I wanted, but just anything. What absolutely blew my mind, especially as a recovering perfectionist, and seeing such a ugly looking squiggle on the paper in the first place, that what I finished and looked at was really, I was astounded because they were really pretty. They weren't anything I've ever seen before. It was abstract art. And the more I did it, the more amazed I was that where did this come from? I've never trusted my own inner creative part of who I am. And I was having fun. And I think that was the thing. I was so lost in the process. I one day realized, you know what? I'm not worried about what was or what's yet to come as I journeyed through this medical adventure. I just was kind of in that place, and I've been a meditation student. It was the same feeling of peace and quiet within. And so it took years before I would even dare do this in color, because as a somewhat perfectionist, if I started with green, what color goes next to it? And what if it doesn't look good? So I thought, no, I'll stick with the black and white. It wasn't until years later when I started sharing this and speaking and giving presentations and went into a classroom with first and second graders. So that puts them at, 7 years old. And I went around the classroom looking at what they were doing, and they had all these Astro Bright gel pens. I was floored. Their art looked like stained glass. And so I came into that workshop as a presenter, as a teacher, and I left as a student.
That's that inner child that we lose track of. It gets buried under the responsibilities of life, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. But for me, there were two things going on at the same time. One, my goodness, I had no idea I was a creative spirit. But the other thing was, interestingly, this came up as I'm journeying through a frightening medical diagnosis of cancer. What is this trying to teach me? So I could take it into as a patient and understand more about how I was supposed to cope. And it took a while, but, part of being a student of meditation for me is really connecting with a lot of the teachings and wanted to understand them. And, there's one thing to learn a teaching, but there's another to become the teaching itself. And it was really teaching me that, I have, I'm not always going to say no right, but it's not for my benefit to be jumping into the unknown future and trying to figure out how this diagnosis is going to unfold and how I'm going to be, in the long run. All I needed to do was be in the moment and allow myself to step into that peaceful inner space and trust the journey and have faith that I would be able to connect with that inherent wisdom we all have. That's where we can find our strength and our courage.
Now, when you share this message, when you teach, what is it that you do? How do you go about teaching people to doodle? Because I do feel like, myself included, we have ideas about what the outcome of something, right? Like it should look a certain way, or we compare what we do to what someone else is doing. How do you help people navigate that, introduce them to it, and help them find the freedom that it actually offers?
Well, I really, want people to experience what the middle feels like, so I will invite people to first, let's just in the beginning, take a pause, just breathe. Let's breathe in and let's breathe out. And I want you to imagine that you have a little basket sitting next to you with your name on it. And I want you to imagine putting all of those things that you're thinking about outside this moment, whether it's worrying about the meeting you just left, or the traffic on the freeway, or the kids not wanting to eat their breakfast before school. And I want you also to think about everything that's yet to unfold in the day, having to go to the market because you have no food at home to make dinner, or a meeting still yet to come. Every thought that doesn't pertain to this moment that you and I are sharing. And I want you to imagine putting all those little thoughts in that basket. And I want you to get up and walk to the corner of that room and just put that basket there for a while. You can pick it up later, but for this moment that we are sharing, we are to be here together just in this space. So that's how I will start. I will continually invite people to appreciate what it means to let go of what was and what's yet to come, to experience what is the potential, for that they can experience in the moment right now. Fear doesn't live in this present moment. Stress really, all these things, usually you will find your mind attached to some thought that's roaming around outside this time together. So it will start with that. And, I look at doodling as, for me, it's a 3-step process. Let's talk about the beginning. Let's talk about the middle. Let's talk about the end, and bring it back together with understanding that the manner in which you show up to create your doodles, I want you to also look at how you choose to step into your day, or step into this hour, or step into this moment.
It's kind of an analogy for how to live, then. It's a tool.
Absolutely. And you can have some fun in the process of learning something about yourself. I continue. And if you find yourself, kind of tripping into the next moment, be gentle with yourself to bring yourself back. There's a great saying, don't let the present moment be only a stepping stone to the next. And I do have a tendency to want to race through things, but something like breast cancer or any other major challenge, whether it's going through a relationship breakup or the loss of someone, puts you right into the middle. And it's really inviting you to really let go of how you think things should turn out. That's where you'll find yourself feeling more stressed out.
I often feel like my own expectations cause a lot of my own suffering.
Absolutely. Especially for those of us who tend to run more on the side of perfectionism. This has been a challenging couple of years for all of us going through a pandemic. I found myself in part having a wonderful time just being in the moment and clearing so much stuff out of my house that I didn't need any longer. It wasn't serving me, but it's also a time when there was a lot of questions. Well, what about my identity? I had been somebody out there in the public speaking and presenting, and I can no longer do it in the same way. So to be gentle with yourself and how you choose to experience every moment, every day, and not put so many expectations upon yourself. We don't always know the reasons why things end up on our plate. And there's times we just need to sit with it for a bit. And I think the important thing is to realize that we may not always have a choice as to what comes into our lives, but we absolutely have a choice in the choices we make on how to respond and deal with things. So I look at doodling as it's a healthy strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Costs pennies a day. Anyone could do it. You don't need art skills, and it's fun.
My sister-in-law, she was going through a lot of healing, especially the pandemic just brought a lot of things that she decluttered her mind and her life in an emotional and mental way. And part of her journey was doodling, but like you write a word and then you doodle around it. Is a great way of release. And I really loved how some of those things she doodled came out, because it was definitely just multicolored pens and, starting with a word, things that she wanted to focus on. And I just remember thinking how much that helped her process all of the changes in relationship that were happening because she was choosing a healthier path. It was costing her, if you will. But in the long run, it was well worth paying because she's in such a good place. And art definitely was part of her journey and process.
Right. And again, there's many different ways to, experience the arts. I was just astounded. My degree in college, I have a Bachelor of Science as a physical therapist. So that's a pretty left brain, and I'm a pretty linear, logical person. So to have something that sounded so mindless and frivolous show up in my life baffled me, just totally baffled me. And yet the bridge between the two was really about looking into the spiritual teachings that have been given to me over the years. And as somebody who really loves to probe under the surface, it's like the timing was so perfect. This shows up during a very frightening time. It has to be teaching me something. And so coming from a family where humor is huge, it really kept me smiling a lot that I could take something so simple and have it have such a profound effect in my health and well-being. I would take my doodle book with me to the hospital, of course, when I'd have to wait for radiation, which would take an entire 5 minutes, and go there early just to sit and have peaceful time. And then in the waiting room was very small, and there might have been 5 of us. And people was like, what are you doing? And so I would begin to teach this to them. It was a wonderful bonding thing. It really created a community and a family for all of us. But it just was. And then I would be, frustrated on the days that they were so organized at the hospital, they would want to take me in early, which was taking me away from my doodling time. But it was just something that really helped ground me. There's been quite a bit of research over the years on the effects of doodling. I mean, I found a study that went way back to 1938. So it's interesting how it really can, impact all the wiring in our brains and really get us to, a place where we can tap into that. I mean, I think even if you took away all the challenges that people are experiencing, just wanting to navigate and journey through life in general, we are, as the saying goes, spiritual beings having a human experience. And to be able just to tap into that essence of who we are, to just make the journey so much richer.
Mm. That is absolutely true. It's so easy to get caught up in the living of life, right? The doing. Right. We need to slow down. I have thought a lot about this too. Just that okay, I'm not going to look at my calendar and think about every day this week today. I can look at it at night to plan for the next day, but really trying to live the day I'm in, because it's not coming any faster by me thinking about it and focusing on it. I'm curious about the science of the doodling. You mentioned it. Tell me a little bit about what you learned about the science of it.
In a number of the studies that I was looking at, it can help. Another study showed that it can help increase the alpha waves patterns and the endorphin levels, increasing focus and creativity, lessening the effects of stress. There's really quite a few studies, and some of them are, it's amazing how in depth they are. Many, many years ago, in the early 2000s, I actually launched my work in the UK. I think this is what set me off in the beginning. I'll just share this quickly with you. I got an abstract in the mail, a call to present at an international conference on spirituality, healing, and health in the UK. And I thought, well, this is perfect. I had no idea what an abstract was. I figured out with the help of a friend how to send an abstract off, and I was accepted. And this was with Sacred Space Foundation, of which they held their conferences at sacred sites. And this was going to be at Durham Castle in the UK. And I told my husband, I need to go. I said, I can do this on my own. They speak the same language, so I should be fine. So I traveled from Los Angeles to the UK for this conference. They put us up. We stayed in the castle itself. And so my very, very first workshop was done in the UK. And after the workshop, which was well received, I went out into the courtyard and I looked up into the sky, and there was a double arced rainbow. And in that moment, it's as if the universe was telling me, good work. This is what the path is I want you to continue on. Made no sense to my linear logical mind, but I had returned for 4 years thereafter and spoke not only at their conferences, but also, at a number of hospitals. One of the hospitals that I had gone to was a hospital that did a lot of work with cancer patients. And the art therapist that they had there actually worked with one of the guys in doing MRIs. And they did do MRIs on some of the patients doing the doodling and actually saw the difference. So it's amazing to me because we don't think, oh, pick up a pen and paper and just get lost in something fun and creative. It would probably be similar to getting lost in music or any other of the arts like that. You have to be so totally present. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't mean all these challenges just go away. But somehow, if you give yourself that permission to be in that peaceful space, that sanctuary, you will connect with inherent wisdom that we all have. It will help guide you. So many times they say, just trust your gut. Well, for me, what do you mean by that? That's how it started off. I don't understand. What do you mean, trust my intuition? Where is it? How can I look it up?
It's that left brain trying to make everything concrete.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So I love when we start off the days, as many of us will do, we make the to-do list. So one day I had the to-do list, left the house. I had errands to run. Of course, the first one on the list, I left, dropped something off at someone's office, got back into my car and noticed I had a flat tire. And I thought, okay. So you call the auto club and then you're sitting and waiting and, you're realizing I'm waiting and waiting. And it's, wait a minute, I've got my doodle book with me. So I just sat in my car. I couldn't do anything about it. I couldn't change, that the guy just wasn't going to magically show up until he showed up. So, we always have choices.
I love that. We always have choices. And I think sometimes we don't realize that we are making a choice, right?
Yeah.
We feel like life's happening to us, but in that moment, we're still making a choice in how we respond to it, what we're thinking about it, how we're feeling about it. Yes.
There's a huge difference between responding to a situation and reacting. So I think one of my other messages is always about, take that moment and ask yourself the question, Am I reacting? Am I responding? It's so important to just take a moment, whether you've got the phone ringing off the hook all day long, take a moment before you pick it up to take a deep breath in and a long breath out. I remember one day, when I had a doctor's appointment, how as a patient and also being somebody who's worked in healthcare, when the doctor came into the room, well, you knew that last patient was a challenging patient because that energy that doctor brought into the room to see me, I could feel. So you're making me feel a little bit not at ease. So just a moment. It takes just a moment before you do these things. I remember my mother had dementia, and so it was such a challenge for my dad. He wanted to fix her and make her better and all that. So anytime I would go visit, I would remember before I dared tip my foot across the threshold and open that door, I would just take a deep breath in and a long breath out and try and just bring myself back to this moment, not imagining what scenarios I would be faced with, letting go of the traffic that I experienced to get there. So it's not always easy, but we do have within us the ability to choose.
It's that visualization, like with the basket, right? I remember somebody sharing the visualization when you come home from work, you pick a plant in your yard or a tree in your yard and visualize hanging up the issues of the day on that. And then when you leave for work in the morning, you're welcome to pick it back up. But it was that idea of take 10 deep breaths before you get out of the car and then visualize yourself leaving these things that are heavy on your mind and heart, because we do have those feelings and things, right? It's part of life to feel those things.
Absolutely. I've got, I hate to say this, but it's reality. I have a few decades on you, and, and I will be truthful in saying that next week I will be 74. And it's like, how did that happen? And your show is about looking at that second half of life, and it's such an interesting thing to journey through, because there's a part of me that, well, am I supposed to have a plan to figure out how I do this? And sometimes one doesn't figure things out by letting go in a day. It can go on for extended period of time. And over the last number of years or so, especially, I still connect with my elementary school classmates. So we've been growing older and wiser together for 20 years now since we've reconnected. And, over the years, it slowly is, talk about, how's everything going? And then you get together the next year, says, so what ails you? And it's like coming to peace in the changes in life that are going to come before each and every one of us. A little bit more difficult when they are more challenging, issues. But nonetheless, I find myself, and I've been doing this since the mid-90s, and I still find myself how easy it is every once in a while to watch how you might be taking a couple of steps down the path that you shouldn't be going down right now. Come back home, and just take a breath. And it's, sometimes you just need to keep breathing a little longer than others. Sometimes you need to take a longer shower. Sometimes you need to take a plastic baseball bat and let the bed have it, making sure your spouse is not in it. Life isn't always easy, but I really do believe in a teaching that I've held close to my heart for so many years, is life presents to us nothing greater than we absolutely have the ability to handle. We may not believe that in the moment, and there are times in these last couple of years where I certainly have questioned a lot. And sometimes, we just need to take a break. Go outside, get in the sunshine, be with nature, go to the ocean. Sometimes, doodling isn't the thing for me in that moment. I need to move energy. I need to be outside. I just need to be with nature. So we have to make a list, and identify the strategies that we have to choose from. I love doodling. I just love doodling because it has so much to offer, not just creatively, but because it's available to each and every one of us. No matter what our age, no matter if we're left-handed or right-handed, whether we can paint or not paint, the whole idea behind it is give yourself permission just to be here now for a moment. Take a recess, take a pause. I've had a great spiritual teacher it's a golden pause. The world won't fall apart if you just take time out.
You talked about moving energy, and I feel like art, doodling, painting, is a way to move energy in some ways. It's a way of kind of creating a channel from the crazy in our minds out through our hands onto paper, because
it's very kinesthetic.
Yes. And you can scribble. A lot of artists I follow, they actually call it mark making. They just get all that energy out with scribbles on their canvas or their paper. They paint over it,
right.
But it's part of the process of releasing what might be sticking you in a spot for the moment.
Right. When I do, especially with the children, but when I do the workshops with adults as well, is because we will have plenty of time to at least finish a doodle. And I have them take a look at it. In the book, The Healing Power of Doodling, there's quite a bit of my own art in there, but there's art from children as well. Is what does this say about life, your life? Well, maybe in the loop, in the upper right-hand corner, you've got a loop there, and you've got one down in the left-hand corner, or different little sections here and there. Well, maybe the one in the right upper corner represents a happier time in your life. Maybe the day you got married or your child was born. Maybe another one is when you got your degree and you got your first job. Maybe there's another one that's a little bit more challenging experience, adventure in your life. For me, a diagnosis of cancer, whatever it is, there's a whole bunch of different little parts of that doodle. Well, we need them all. We need the happy and the not so happy, because when you step back and look at your finished piece of art, you've created a unique masterpiece, unique for you. So, and with the children, I tell them, now that you've finished it, across the bottom of it, I want you to write your name. And then I want you to turn it 90 degrees and write your name again, and do it again and again. So maybe one day you're looking at your doodle and you're seeing it one direction, but maybe the next day you can see it differently. Every day that we wake up in the morning, we're going to have an entirely different experience of the day than we did the day before. Mm-hmm. Because I think my purpose deep down underneath is I'm not just here to give you a fun little tool to play with. You can do that if you want. I want you to be empowered. I want you to learn something about yourself and how you connect with adventures and experience in life chapters. I want you to walk away a little wiser and connected to that spiritual essence of who you are.
It's in those quiet moments, isn't it?
It very much is. I have self-published 3 books. And what did I know? What did I know about doing that? Nothing. All I knew inside of me is, you know what? I think I've stumbled upon something powerful. I need to put this in a book. How do you do that? Well, I needless to say, it sought a lot of guidance and advice along the way. And it's like, well, I need to honor that journey, which I call my spiritually rich medical adventure through breast cancer, because words are very, very powerful. I need to honor that journey, but I need to honor this art. I got to put it together. So I had no idea what to do. So I sat down in my office one day and I had a pile of art. And on the other part of me, I had taken out of my journals all of the writing related to the medical journey. And I thought, okay, then I put on some music, some meditation, quiet music. And I sat there and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I picked up a piece of art, put it down, and with my other hand, I picked up a piece of writing, put it down, and I went one after it, until I had them all together. And it started like that. I was not trained to do that. Then years later, I had another idea. I wanted to put all of this together in a DVD. I wanted all that art woven with Celtic harp music. And so that took about a year to put together. I had this vision in my mind. And it's easily viewed on the website, but it's also up on Sacred Doodles. It's up on YouTube. It's a meditation. It simply is going to give you a break from the day, and you can sit there and take the time and just watch the art morph from beginnings to middles and ends woven with the Celtic harp music. And the interesting thing about the music is it's Lisa Lynn, who's a well-known Celtic harpist who I had met, and we had done a number of workshops, and I told her about this idea. I really wanted her music because it's just so peaceful and grounding, but I was afraid to ask. And it was funny because what I was doing is jumping into that unknown tomorrow. Well, what if I ask and she says no? This came up so many times for me, and I'm watching myself say, Carol, you're doing exactly what you tell people not to do. Jump into the unknown tomorrow. What would happen if you just asked her? So one day, out of the blue, my husband and I were out of town, and we're walking down the downtown area in Santa Barbara, and they had a street fair, and there was Lisa Lynn in a booth she had. And I thought, oh, if this is not telling me to try once more. So I went up to her and I asked her, and in a matter of saying, of course, I'll be happy to give you the music. I'll give you the music to use. And it just reminded me of like, boy, did we sure make our journeys hard in life when we try and figure something out ahead of time, or why we can't do this and why we can't do that. It's amazing. So it's a life lesson.
It's that letting go of control and allowing, right? That's kind of the process.
Allowing, that sacred to bubble to the surface, the wisdom to bubble the surface, let go of the fear. 25 plus years later, I really will never let go of the recovering part of saying I'm a recovering perfectionist, because every day there could be a new lesson along the way. I'm much, much better about trusting the unknown in my life right now and having faith, even when I don't believe. I'm about ready to launch my own radio show on Voice America, and I think I am so in over my head. But it came from such a deep place. I thought about it for a week. I thought about it for a week, and I thought, no, this sounds like the next chapter. My executive producer, the energy was a perfect match. And then after I said yes, then everything else in my own personal life just got more complicated, with this coming up and another project. And I thought, wow, we can so short sell ourselves in a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting when you talk about these last 20 something years. I'm doing the math and realizing that this was all a midlife journey for you, wasn't it?
Well, I met my spiritual teacher when I was 41. And that to me is when my life really started, because it's been taking me on an amazing journey. The cancer, boy, what a powerful experience to walk through. When I was diagnosed the second time, it was exactly 2 years later on the other breast. I had asked, why is this happening to me? What have I done wrong? I knew I hadn't done anything wrong, but it was a question I needed to put out there. And the answer came right back. You didn't do anything wrong. That second journey was utterly powerful. I ended up at a hospital, which I was very familiar with because my parents had done a lot of philanthropic work, the City of Hope. There was a painting when you walk through the door that reads, a huge painting There's no profit in curing the physical body if in the process you destroy the soul. And in that moment, I told my husband, who also comes from the medical community, I don't need you coming with me every day. I can do this, because they had such a regard for the inherent power of integrating the spiritual part into health and healing. So that second journey was, I drive by that hospital every once in a while, and I never have any negative thoughts. Oh, that was a horrible time having to go through cancer again. I stepped out of that journey feeling so much more empowered.
You're not the only person I've spoken to that has been transformed in the way that they think, in the way that they view the world after something like that. I think it would be fantastic for those of us who may never experience that to have that aha moment, to be able to transition to that greater way of thinking without having to really have it be forced upon us,
Right. I've studied many, many years with Carol Edmonston, and I had said that one day. She says, boy, I can't believe I hear this from women who say, their journey through cancer, was really an enriching adventure. I said, look, I have earned the scars and the tattoos. They're mine. I'm part of a group, It is your choice, because I have also been around, women that have journeyed through breast cancer who were going to fight it. They were going to stay in that fear and that anger. And look, there's nothing you can do about it. As far as if you need surgery, if you need chemo, if you need radiation, this is what you need to do. How do you make it become an ally, and not and let go of trying to figure out how to control it. I remember one day when it was going to be my last radiation treatment. This was the first time around, and it was on a Friday. So, man, I had plans. It's like, okay, I go at 8:30 in the morning. It takes 5 minutes. That's the last one. I'm done with my 6 weeks. I'm going down to Starbucks to celebrate. I go in there at 25 after 8, and I show up, and they say to me, we're so sorry, but the machine broke down. You'll have to come back on Monday, to finish up. And it's like, whoa, the disappointment you can feel when you're so attached to that ending, you want that ending. Sometimes things, in a way, I would not be who I am today and arrived at the space that I am as a spiritual being without that second diagnosis of cancer. It sounds so crazy, but it was such a powerful experience for me, because I think my life lesson, my soul contract life lesson, is been all about teaching me about the power of what it is like to trust and have faith in the one moment you have right now. And at this age, it's I'm trying to figure out, well, am I supposed to just quote unquote retire? I don't know what that even means. I'm wired for service anyway, so that's not going to happen. Trying to figure out how you do this part of life at this stage. It's an interesting journey. All I know is it's wonderful to make sure you have people in your lives that are older than you, your age, and younger than you.
Perspective, right? Getting that holistic life, because other people's input can be very enlightening. Whether or not it's exactly in agreement with yours, it does give you some perspective, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there are times when you really want to impart and share some wisdom and have them shift, but you also need to respect and honor where they are. Some people are going to live their lives on the second floor of an apartment building, and some people are going to be in that penthouse, and the perspective is, so different. So it is interesting, but still within each and every one of us, we have that light within us.
Mm-hmm. Well, Carol, I would love to have you share 3 key takeaways. If you could if you were sitting down in front of my tribe and you wanted to tell them 3 things you really want them to take to heart, what would those be?
I think one of them for sure would be to really always create a healthy strategy in your life, that it's so important to give that spiritual part of who you are an opportunity to rest and recover and regroup, never to give up, never to give up. And to remember that we receive no more than we really have the ability to handle. And not to ever forget to try and find and enjoy the journey along the way, even when you find yourself on a detour. You know, it's just very, very important to have a roadmap. You might need to put it in pencil sometimes because you might need to, come back and change it, but that's okay. Change is the one constant in our lives. It'll always be there, whether we want it or not. And the last thing, well, I'll throw in the extra bonus and doodle. Get yourself a blank spiral notebook, a pen, pencils, and have some fun. Just make sure you niche out some time every day, even if it's only 5, 10, 15 minutes.
It's a great thing to do while you're on the phone, or, something where maybe you can be a little busy with your hands, and it does help the mind be a little more clear.
Right. And inside my book, In the Healing Power of Doodling, there's a lot of blank pages. There's pages to journal. There's prompts. There's questions. There's just thoughts to think about. Just so you just recognize that, we all are these amazing beings of light.
And honoring that and making room for that, like we said, not just doing, but be who you are.
Right. The beingness is by far more important than the doingness.
And it takes a little more energy to shift because we're so used to doing.
Right. Sometimes we just need to take those Nike tennis shoes off.
Just get off the treadmill. Just get off.
Right. Because in the middle, life will happen.
Yes, exactly. Carol, how can people find you?
Well, the website is thedoodlelady.com. There's lots of information and links to the book and workshops. And that's the best way to reach me. And I'm happy to, I will absolutely, I'm a great person about responding and getting back to people if they want to connect with me.
Do you have an Instagram account?
I do, but I must admit, I'm not quite into it totally. I absolutely I'm on Pinterest, and the Pinterest is, I have uploaded a tremendous amount of art up on Pinterest, and the link is right on the website, so they can go there. I don't have a 6-year-old living with me, so all of this technology at times.
You have a YouTube though, right?
I do have it, and I'm actually in the process of getting a lot of that up and running and doing that. So, but in the meantime, there is a tremendous amount of information on the website.
Excellent. Well, Carol, I want to thank you so much for coming on my show and taking me on this journey of your experience and the wisdom you've gained in that experience. You have I love your calm and gentle spirit. I love the way that you have a good perspective on life. It's the balance, the strategies that you brought, the authenticity and honesty that you shared your journey with us. And I'm just so grateful for that. It's such a gift. Thank you so much.
Oh, well, it's been such a delight chatting with you. I've really enjoyed it. And kindred spirits, keep up with the art.
Absolutely. Art is a lifeline. Definitely for me and my family.
Well, good. And then you can stretch your comfort zone and try some doodling with your non-dominant hand and see how that turns out as well.
I actually have, and that is a great thing for the brain. I paint with both hands. So I try to push the release and just allow it to be what it is. And I really actually went through a phase where I did a lot more painting with my non-dominant hand and really liked it. I don't know. It just felt
well, isn't that, and it is an interesting thing, mainly because we have less expectations, so we're not so hard and judgmental about it when we do that. So it's kind of fun.
Friends, today I've been speaking with Carol Edmonston. She is the original Doodle Lady. She's a recovering perfectionist and the author of The Healing Power of Doodling. If you head over to www.feminineroadmap.com/episode 260, I will have all the links to Carol and her resources. Friends, this is just one of those conversations that I felt was going to be healing, encouraging, empowering. I know I tend to go for information, but this is one of those things that's near and dear to my heart, knowing that art is such a powerful tool to allow us to find joy and peace and calm in a moment, and releasing ourselves to that process and learning to release the expectation of an outcome. I would highly encourage you to get a hold of Carol's book, Trust the Process. Give yourself 5 minutes a day to scribble on a piece of paper with your favorite color if you want to. Find a way to find joy. Expect nothing but a moment of peace once you lean into the process, finding your ability to live in the now, my friends. Thank you for spending this time with Carol and I, and for giving us your ear and your heart and your mind for this time. We honor that journey. And I thank you so much again for being a part of my tribe. And if you are at my website at www.feminineroadmap.com, please leave your email address. I send out periodic encouraging emails. Thank you for being here today. I will be bringing more encouraging and inspiring content to you in the weeks to come. Take care, my friends. Bye-bye.